You've been watching the finals? I mean, not the finals, the playoffs?
I have and haven't.
Yeah, me too.
Like I would say a week or two ago, I was watching games and then I was off and on.
Yeah.
I worked the PGC camp this weekend, so that kind of got me thrown off.
Right. How was that?
It was fun. It was good.
Yeah.
Learning new things and new ways to present skills to kids and help them remember.
Yeah.
Some of the same skills that we know as very basic. Teach them very basic. Like I'm trying to get better at basics and not loading kids up with a lot of skills, a lot of things to think about, because it just does not work.
All right, I'll take your word for it.
It does not work. You gotta give them one thing at a time, maybe two, and then have them make decisions off of those two.
Right.
We are live. We should be live right now, guys, on YouTube at Coach Ernie Williams, on Facebook at Coach Ernie Williams as well. At Coach Ernie on Periscope. We got Coach Tk LaFleur live right here. What's up, Coach?
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm good. I'm doing real good, real well.
Good deal.
So this is our last episode on our series of talking about mental performance. So if you haven't seen the episodes before, they are fire. You've got to go back and check them out. Our first week was confidence. Help me out, Coach, if I miss anything. Our second week was accountability and discipline. Last week was comparison.
Yep.
And today we are talking about mental toughness. So all those other 3 weeks in podcast that we did are gonna kind of come full circle here, and we're gonna tie it into mental toughness and just talk about what is it to us, what do we think it means, how can we notice it in other athletes and coaches, and just talk about some different techniques to continue to build your mental toughness, because it is a muscle that you have to continue to work and flex. All right, what do you think about that, Coach?
I agree with you on the fact that it's a muscle. A lot of the mental performance topics that we have been talking about in a lot of the mental performance topics that I teach in my program are all based around the fact that it's a muscle that you have to flex. It's a muscle that you have to work. Just like you go to the gym and you do bench press and you do squats and you do curls and all that. Mental performance and mental toughness is all in the same category. We do different drills that develop skills that eventually become your mental performance skill set. Just like you do in the gym, on the field, in the bowling alley, wherever your platform is that you shine and you compete. You start out doing drills, which eventually become the skills that you have, and then once you get more than one skill, you have a skill set, and that becomes what people, scouts, coaches, that becomes what people say is your game. Like that's your game. That's how you play. So mental performance and mental toughness is no different. And so a definition that I like to go with for mental toughness or mental strength is basically it's improving your ability to regulate your emotions and manage your thoughts and behave in a positive manner despite your circumstances. So I know that's a mouthful, but controlling your emotions, controlling your thoughts, remaining positive no matter what is essentially the condensed version of what I just said.
I like that.
Thank you.
I like that. And it totally right. Control no matter what.
Yep.
That's it. Control no matter what, right? No matter if we're playing our worst of the worst, no matter if we have lost our other best players on the team or something happened in our family, that it's hard to deal with. Trying to play at that high level, no matter what happens. That's pretty much in life, mental toughness. That's life. I love it. I love that definition, Coach.
Thank you. Yeah, so I mean, that definition is can be different from what we think mental toughness is. I'll tell you, as an athlete, I thought mental toughness was being able to accept my coach yelling at me and I was able to still play. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, maybe that's just part of the equation. But mental toughness is so much more than just being headstrong. You can't just keep running through a brick wall, and because you break the brick wall, you're mentally tough. Like, no, that's not really how it works.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of internal battles that you're fighting. It's really, mental toughness is really more of the internal battle that you are fighting to continue to compete and play at the highest level, to continue to compete and play consistently. And if you're unable to do those things, it's going to be really hard for you to have as successful of a career as you want, whether that's in sports or just in life. I mean, mental toughness and mental strength, it's not something that's just limited to the sports world. It's definitely, you need it when you have kids, you need it when you go to work, you need it when you have hobbies, because sometimes when you're painting that little perfect car that you just built, you're going to get some blue where the red should go. And then what? Do you just throw the whole car away, or do you, control yourself and prevent yourself from getting so upset that you just mess up the whole thing? So mental strength, it goes anywhere really in life. It's not just meant for sports. Although we are like focusing solely on sports here, but it can be translated easily to everyday life.
Okay. Yes, I agree. Coach, from your experience with other players and maybe other players, parents, and maybe coaches, what are some interesting, I guess, definitions of what other people think mental toughness is?
Right. The example, like what I said for me was just being able to handle a coach constantly yelling at me. I thought if I was able to handle that, I was mentally strong.
Mm-hmm.
Other examples that I've heard is you have to be mentally tough. You have to just block everything out. Blocking everything out equals mental toughness. Yes and no. I lean more towards no, but I've heard, let me think of some other ones. Being mentally tough is not showing your emotion. I don't necessarily agree with that. It's hard to play a sport and not be passionate and emotional about it. I mean, it doesn't mean that every play you celebrate to the nth degree, and it doesn't mean you slam the ball down if something doesn't go your way, but you have ways to express your emotions without letting it get the best of you, and it just derails your game. Like, you can show excitement, you can show passion, you make a big play down the line, deep down into the game, and you want to show that I'm passionate, that I just made a big play that's going to put us on track to win or put us on track to come back or whatever it is. Like, so, those are just some of the ones that I've heard that I'm just like, that's not what we should be teaching our kids.
There's some negative emotions that when are displayed, you can say, oh, they had a lack of mental toughness in that game or that moment or that quarter where they, like you said, let that negative emotion derail them from performing, which is true. But like you said, the game, all sports and things that you're passionate about, anybody should be able to express their emotions, their positive emotions from working hard, for a teammate getting an assist or a dunk or anything like that, or you coming back after being down 20 points. There's certain emotions, but when you have to go cuss out the ref and then it takes you out of your mental zone, or your coach
don't do that, kids.
Something exactly. Your coach has to tell you something, and you don't want to listen to him or her. Come on, you got to be mental tough to take that criticism and then go back and deliver. When you turn it over, and your teammate kind of gets on you about putting your head down instead of getting back on defense and running and trying to help the team. Right? Don't let certain things derail you and your team. It's a snowball effect when that energy is there.
Right, and that's the analogy of one rotten apple spoils the bunch. So if one person is not feeling down, over time, it may not happen instantly, but over the course of the game, a practice, a workout, a trip, like if you're on a road trip or something, that energy eventually starts to feed into everyone else. And because energy it's never lost, it's just transferred from one party to the other. So if you have someone or multiple someones that is not handling the pressure, is not handling whatever in the right way, eventually that is going to feed off on the other players. And I don't know if that shows a lack of mental toughness or if it just shows well, I know it shows a lack of mental toughness, but I'm wondering just, is it because they don't want to or they don't know how to? And there's a difference. So it's like some players want to be mentally tough, but they don't know how to. And there are some players who know how to, but they're choosing not to tap into that potential to be mentally tough in that moment when they're needed the most. I mean, think about, and going back, before I even switch over to another like segment of that, you just have to, as an athlete, you have to understand what your role is on the team and why your mental strength is so key to the team succeeding. And it's so key to the team having that consistent play across the entire season, because everybody is needed on the team. There's nobody who's more important than anybody, and there's nobody who just doesn't matter. Every single person matters. So what you bring to the team, to the sport, to the game, to your hobbies mentally is what you will eventually exude as the game goes on. And for the people who maybe aren't playing as much as they want, your mental toughness on the bench is so key and important to the success of the team. Imagine playing an entire basketball game and the bench never cheers, like ever. Like they never cheer when you hit a three. They never cheer when you get a steal. They never cheer when you make a good play. They don't, have like little pep talks, or they're not clapping on the bench when you need some energy. Imagine getting a timeout, having a timeout called, and everyone just kind of like huddles around the coach with their head down, and they never high five the players who are coming off the court. That's why I say like inner emotions and energy are still an important part of mental toughness and mental strength, because for those players who maybe they're injured and that's why they can't play. Maybe they are just young and they haven't quite found their place on the team, and that's why they're not playing. Not playing is not necessarily a bad thing, but maybe you haven't gotten to that point in your career yet, and that's okay. You are still needed, and your mental toughness is probably needed more than the people who are on the court, because you have to stay mentally engaged, because you never know what's going to happen. And if you don't have that mental toughness and that mental strength and that mental edge, then you're going to struggle to be ready when your number is called. Staying locked in on the bench is so important in so many ways.
Exactly. I think we talked about that a good grip last week in comparison.
Yep.
That's some good stuff. So if you haven't seen that, go back to last week's podcast and listen to that episode. Interesting point you made about you kind of you talked about a little bit, but then kind of continued your thought. The injured person. That's a different type of mental, not a different type of mental toughness, but it's a different situation. Now
it's a different mental challenge.
Different. Yeah, it's a different challenge. I'm playing over here, but then now I'm hurt. Now I can't play for the next 6 months or 3 weeks or a year. Me being hurt in my career, I always think it's kind of funny when athletes are really, really stressed out about 2 or 3 weeks when you can't play. And I get it, because I've been there though.
Right.
But then I've also been there where it's going to take 12 months. So I'm like, I'm looking at three weeks like, that's cool.
Right,
that's
right.
But it's just because they haven't been through that. It is very tough to be injured, have to go through a surgery, have to sit out and watch your team, in the sense that you can't give value. And it's an uncomfortable spot if you haven't been hurt, because you don't know necessarily how to give. And like, it goes right into what you just said about being on the bench and being a part of that energy.
Right.
And being focused.
Yep.
Just as much as if you were able to go in and be subbed in.
Right.
You've got to be helping your teammates out that are on the court, that are coming off, and being another coach, a player coach.
Right.
And then also thinking about being mentally tough to continue your work ethic in your training, your injury recovery, your rehab, and staying on your book, staying on your health. because when you're sitting out, you can't burn those calories like you used to. So you can't be eating
can't eat everything.
3 biscuits because you don't have practice like everybody else do.
Yeah.
You know, it's tough. It's really tough. I've been through that a couple of times. It gets easier as you continue to be in that position.
Right.
But it's just the agony of knowing how long. Like, you know how hard it is. I think for me it was, I knew I could do it, right?
Yeah.
But it was like, I know how hard and how mentally tough I have to be able to sit out 6 months or 12 months. So awesome point there. Another point I wanted to piggyback off of was, you know, sometimes parents, I've heard some refer to mental toughness as through their kids' ability to score. And that's so far from what mental toughness is about.
So far from the truth.
And I understand that they want them to perform.
Right.
But scoring or not scoring is not about mental toughness. What thoughts do you have around that? Have you heard that before? Dealt with that before?
I haven't heard it put in those terms before, but just going with what you just said, scoring does not equal mental toughness. Anybody can score, whether you're mentally tough or not. Give them enough chances, they're going to score.
Right.
But mentally tough is, like I said, just handling your emotions. Think about being mentally tough in a situation that maybe doesn't favor you is really more about your resilience, and it's more about, are you consistently acting according to your values? It's not acting tough. Like, I may be strong physically, but it's not about acting tough. It's acting according to your values. It doesn't require that you ignore emotions. It requires that you're interpreting and understanding how your emotions influence your thoughts and your behaviors, which leads into scoring. So if you're mentally tough and you're able to handle your emotions in a positive way based on, the players get in a slump. I lost my train of thought there for a second. When you get in a scoring slump or your shooting slump and you've missed 4, 5, 6, 7 in a row, you just shut down and say, I'm not going to shoot anymore for the rest of the game. I'm a terrible shooter. Or are you able to process those negative emotions and then say, that's not the right thinking that I have? Remove that out of your thinking and say, I'm going to make the next one. And so you understand where your mind is, you understand where your thought process is, and then you use that to influence your behavior to get you out of the shooting slump. Maybe you start attacking the rim and you get easy buckets, you get layups. Maybe you start attacking the rim and you get fouled, so the team is racking up fouls. Now you're in the bonus. Maybe just seeing the ball go in the rim from the free throw line is all you need to get yourself out of that slump. But if you would have just continued to feed into that negative emotion, you would not have been acting in a mentally tough way. You would have let your emotions essentially win and completely take you out of your game. Your resilience to the stress of not making your shots has now negatively impacted your performance. That's not being mentally tough. And so you have to understand that what it is you are trying to accomplish in the scenario you're in with your mental toughness. And it goes back to it being a muscle. Mental toughness is something that you can learn, you can grow, you can enhance, you can make stronger every single day. Just because you didn't have it in the past doesn't mean you can't have it starting now. You can have it right now. You can start training your mental toughness muscle right now. I mean, learning how to be more self-reliant, learning how to be resilient, learning how to choose happiness, choose and make these decisions. I'm actually going to be talking about ownership here in a couple of hours, and it goes right into this. You own your decisions. You own your thoughts. You own what it is you're doing, your actions, and being mentally tough is what is going to enable you to consistently play, because you have the tools, you have the strategy, you have the understanding of where your thoughts are going and how to self-correct that. And so, like, just some of the things, like when you're talking about mental toughness, you really want to focus on what you can control.
Yeah.
I know everyone says that, but it truly is a part of mental toughness. What can you control? Can you control if a ref calls a foul or doesn't call a foul? No. Can you control if the shot goes in? No. Can you control how much playing time you get? No. You can influence those things by how you work, by attacking the rim aggressively and influencing the ref to make a decision or not make a decision. But ultimately, you cannot make the decision for the ref. So you can influence these things. You can influence the shot going in by shooting with your proper form and technique and all of that stuff. You can influence it, but ultimately, you can't make the shot go in. Even when you dunk the ball, you can't make the shot go in. How many people have blown dunks, layups? So, I mean, it's not like you really can control that. But if that's all you focus on, the rim was off, or hit my elbow, or whatever. If you're choosing to focus on those things that you have no control over, you're not going to succeed in the mental toughness aspect of your sport. If you focus on the things that you can control, your work ethic, your attitude, your effort, your hustle, how you approach the game, your preparation, if you control those things, that's showing mental toughness, because you're not allowing those outside influences to impact how you play and how you move.
Yes. Preach. I'm just thinking of all kind of stuff while you're talking. So I want to piggyback off of what you said. You mentioned the word ownership.
Yeah.
Ownership of your decisions and your choices. Ownership of your values and making decisions based on values. And what had popped up in my mind was having boundaries.
Yeah.
And when I think about boundaries, it's more so on the side of, you're a part of a team, but what are your boundaries as far as if a big part of the team goes out the night before the game? Do you have the value and the boundaries in yourself to say, I'm not going to go? Right. And just the boundaries of how you're going to react to the ref, how you're going to react to adversity on the court, on practice, in any moment. You really have to set those boundaries. And I think it all kind of sits together there with ownership and value.
Yeah.
Right. So I just wanted to add that. That was great. I wrote some notes down. What I write? I can't remember. I can't read it. Dang it, every time. Okay. You were talking about a player being in a shooting slump.
Yes.
And something interesting I did learn at the PTC camp I did work this weekend. Shout out to Director Matt McLeod. He said something about people being in a shooting slump or not making 7 to 8 shots in a row. It's not about you being a bad shooter or a good shooter. It's literally data.
Yep.
And I've never thought about it that way, just saying it's data. But, excuse me, as a shooter, I always know to keep shooting. And every shot I will adjust. Right? Is that one short? Is that one long? Is off to the left, to the right? But he said it, but I've never thought about it as each shot is just data. The more you miss, the more data you get to fix it. Right? Yeah. I just wanted to point that out. And then say that in a different way that, if parents or coaches are listening or players, they can actually hear that. Maybe it'll resonate different.
Right. Absolutely.
So, Coach, how we might have been touching on it a little bit. Are there any moments where you have recognized mental toughness in players? And how do we recognize that?
Yeah. So, it's just interesting how I asked you at the beginning, have you been watching the NBA playoffs? And, we talked about the WNBA and all that stuff. And you can see the mental toughness in players when you see how they respond to adversity. That's when you truly start to see the mental toughness, because like I said last week, either you're gonna hold up or you're gonna fold up. It doesn't matter. You're gonna go one or two ways. And when that adversity, I mean, it's not my quote. I really loved it though. Thanks to Hina Pow Pow, you know.
Yeah.
But it's really more of when things are not going your way, how do you respond? When things are inconsistent with your team, how do you respond? When one of your team's star players or one of your team's key rebounders goes out in foul trouble, how do you respond? That's when you start to see the mental toughness. So things that I see is you'll see people clapping, you'll see people cheering their teammate on more and more. You hear more communication because you're trying to make up for what maybe you have lost or haven't quite found in the flow of the game. You'll start to see more cohesiveness. I mean, most teams are pretty cohesive, but it'll get even better because they're trying to potentially make up for something that they lost. Whether it's due to injury, due to fouls, whatever. And something that I've learned is that you may not necessarily have to be the most talented team to win. The better team doesn't always win. The team that plays the best that night wins. That's why there's upsets. That's why there are surprises and things of that nature. Like that's why there's these surprise players. Like, whoa, who is that? What happened is they took on the challenge and rose to the occasion. And that's because they were mentally tough in all the other games when nobody took them seriously, when nobody was guarding them, when they weren't the focus of the team's defense. They took advantage of that opportunity to show the other team, like, hey, I can shoot just as well as the next person. While you're focusing on them, I'm going to knock down these buckets. But the only reason why they could do that is because they remained mentally tough on games where they were not the first, second, third, or fourth option.
Absolutely.
They stayed in the gym working out. They stayed and perfected their craft. They didn't have a woe is me mentality. They didn't have, well, in high school, I was the star and now I'm nobody and I'm coming off the bench. They didn't have that mentality. They had I know my work ethic and I know what I'm good at. And when my time comes, I will be ready. That's what what's his name from the Bulls? The head coach of the freaking Warriors. I cannot think of his name right now.
The new one? Or is it a new one or is it?
No, the one now, Steve Kerr.
Okay,
Steve Kerr. So that's what he did for the Bulls in the 90s. No one was paying attention to Steve Kerr. Mm-hmm. No offense to Steve Kerr, but no one was paying attention to Steve Kerr.
Right.
And what happened? Game on the line, game 5, game 6, game 7, down deep in the series. Jordan passes him the ball wide open. He knocks it down. He gains the respect of Jordan forever and ever. Amen. And they go on to win. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, those are the players that are exuding mental toughness all the time. And you just never know when your time is going to be. So you have to stay mentally ready. So when your time comes, because you just never know when it's going to come. And it come at the biggest time of the season. When your time is ready, you have to be ready.
Mm-hmm. You do. It's like your baseline confidence.
Yeah.
And it really, mental toughness comes out, like you said, when there's adversity and it's tight. The game's tight. The game's on the lines in some kind of way, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I was just thinking of some examples and players that I love. If I'm watching a game, especially in young basketball, I'm watching someone that has not played, does not get a lot of playing time, but they are the best free throw shooter on their team.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when something happens to where it's a technical and we can get them in, or blood on the shirt, got a sub, and they get to come in and shoot these free throws 2 for 2, 3 for 3,
yep.
and they win the game, or they put that team up.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is incredible and amazing mental performance and mental toughness, because they hadn't got any juice.
Yeah, right. They coming in cold.
They didn't get no loose balls, no nothing. Right?
Yeah.
No energy. It's all right here.
Absolutely.
Go right to the line. Bop, bop, bop. Right?
And they know what their role is, so they know that they're coming in to shoot pressure free throws.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Or also in football, right? The punter that comes in and has to get those last that last field goal or that that 1 or 2 points that we need.
Right.
And get that kick right in line with that goal. Like super crazy. And then the other one I have is for, we've been talking about shooting and getting in a slump and trying to get out of it. The players that continue to have their confidence, right? Because they have put in so much work and they've shot so much, they understand I'm having a bad shooting game today, right? It's okay. As long as I stay locked in, because if we can stay tight in this game, I might be in a position to hit that game winner.
Right.
And when I see those games, it is so awesome. Like it's those players that have been shooting, number one, been shooting and been missing, or not the typical go-to player, make that shot at the end of that fourth quarter to win the game or overtime. I love seeing that player. I love how crazy the crowd goes, how crazy the team goes. And we understand how that feels. Right, exactly. It feels so good for that shooter, and it feels so good for that team and for their fans. It's an awesome moment. But that moment is all about mental performance for 40 to 45 minutes. Right.
There's so many other ways that you can impact the game not scoring. So if you're not scoring and you mentally check out, that means your defense is going to be off. Your rebounding is going to be off. Your communication is going to be off.
Yes.
I mean, everything can be negatively impacted if all you do is think that mental toughness is synonymous with scoring. And ironically, when I was younger in my career days, I had that mentality. It wasn't the best mentality as I learned when I got older, but if I wasn't scoring, I wasn't doing anything else. And I was guilty. I was one of those players, but then I learned that, hey, I may not be scoring, but I can play better defense, which can maybe give me a steal, which can make me score on the other end, but a wide open layup.
Exactly.
So it didn't matter how I eventually got back to it, or if I wasn't scoring, well, if I hit the offensive boards, maybe I can get a rebound putback and an and one, and then maybe that'll start me scoring. So I had to reframe it and rephrase it in a way that helped me to realize that all of these other aspects of the game are just as important as scoring. Maybe I don't have, 25, 30 points, but I have 12 assists. That means I assisted on a minimum of 24 points for that game, if not more if they hit a three. So you have to, this is why I think when you say parents hear mentally tough and scoring and that definition going together, like I can see where it's coming from, but really they're not synonymous. It's truly just about, no matter if you're scoring or not, you have to be mentally tough to stay locked into the game, because you just never know when what play in the game will completely change the projection of the game. You just never know what it is. It could be the first play of the game. It could be the last play of the game. It could be somewhere in the middle of the third quarter. You just don't know where that play is. But there's always one or two plays. There's probably 1 to 3 plays that truly determine if a game is won or lost. And you never know which 1 to 3 plays it is. But that's really what it boils down to. It's about 1 to 3 plays that determine the game.
Wow.
And you can't blame the person who missed the shot at the end of the game. That wasn't the shot that lost the game.
I hate when that happens.
It was, but it wasn't.
I hate when that happens, and
man,
I feel so bad for that player. It's like, how would you like to be in that position?
Right, yeah, like it's literally not their fault that they lost the game. When you think about a missed defensive rotation, or you think about an interception that a quarterback may throw, or a home run that someone pitches.
We're gonna get that taken care of, guys. If you are watching, thank you so much. Let me know where you're watching from. If it's YouTube, Periscope, or Facebook. Also, make some comments. Where are you from? Ask some questions. We want some engagement from you guys. Want to know what you're thinking about this mental toughness episode.
My bad, guys.
Good.
My bad.
Hey, we know you got security. You got security.
Oh, yeah, top-notch security. My little dog, she's about 10 pounds. She's going to get everybody.
Oh, man. Yeah, so we have a comment I want to put up and read from Dee Dee. And she's my teammate that we played at UT together. She's in Poland. She's a head coach of a men's basketball team in Poland. Shout out to her. She is the bomb. Let me read this for us. Let me know what you think, Coach. Mental toughness. You can be interested or committed. I like that.
Yeah.
You cannot be both. Challenge your athletes, which are they? Especially after lost game. Are you still committed? Committed to your team, program, coaches, philosophy, and goal.
Awesome. Okay. I see. I like that. I see where she's going with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you're interested, then as soon as something bad happens, you're kind of like, okay, well, let's just go do something else. And you kind of like over it instantly, and you're back to your regular scheduled program. 50-50. And then if you're committed, it's probably going to hit you a little bit harder. You're going to want to watch the film, figure out what went wrong, figure out how you can get better, figure out how the team can get better, understand. You're really trying to understand what happened whenever things don't go as planned. Why did the game plan? I'm not going to say the game plan failed. Why did the team fail to successfully execute the game plan? Because the game plan probably didn't fail. The scoreboard tells you if the game plan is working or not working, but it also goes into the fact of how well the players truly are executing the game plan that the coaches have put into place. And did you buy into it? Did you believe in it? Sort of like buying into your team culture, all of that stuff. So yeah, I do like the comment. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that was dope. I love it. I love the interested versus committed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I need to start using that. So I think kids can really understand. Are you just interested? Is basketball cool? Or do you really want this? Do you really want to be the best that you can be?
Right.
Awesome. Thanks, D. Miss you. That's the homie. Let me see here. Techniques. Have we been talking about techniques?
We've talked about it very little on this episode.
Yeah, let's try to talk about some techniques for boosting mental toughness. Some that I have is like one that jumps out at me, and maybe this is because I had some performance issues senior year in college,
mm-hmm.
and then I went through some things with injury and other things, depression, anxiety, mm-hmm. while playing overseas.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I'm okay saying I'm struggling. I don't want to try and figure it out myself because I've been doing that.
Right.
I haven't got anywhere.
Right.
So I'm a big advocate of going to the source that could possibly help. So getting a mental performance coach, getting a sports psychologist, someone to talk to just, they're certified to help people perform and work through their thoughts.
Right.
Work through their fears, their anxieties, and then other things that are going on in your life. Because most of the time, we may not be able to perform. It's things that are happening off the court.
Right. Yep.
It's big, small, whatever. They're affecting us in a big way.
Yep.
So I say, for me, I've had therapists and sports psychologists through my career. So I want to go and get help immediately.
Right. Yeah, and that's one way to go about it. The only thing that I know that athletes have struggled with, and I know that because I struggled with it, is I'm curious to hear how you went about it, because I know how I went about it. Okay. How do you begin to even pinpoint what outside of sports is truly causing your performance to decrease? And that is something that is not always easy to do. Something is off.
Yeah.
But so then I know naturally you're going to start thinking, what has changed? What has happened? Either new, old, good, bad, whatever. And then you're going to try to figure out like, maybe I need to remove this out, or maybe I need to go back to meditating and I haven't been meditating every morning. So that's throwing off my whole, game or whatever it is. And so being able to, when you do eventually reach out, being able to be open to pinpointing what is wrong, because you can go and you can have these conversations, but if you're really not open to it, to what could potentially come out of that conversation, it's still not going to help you. But if you are open to it and you're willing to dive deep and you're willing to get a true understanding of what you really want to focus on and how you want to improve, then yes, absolutely. Do that, take the advice, and watch your game be turned around and played in the way that you know how to play. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
I think, kind of to answer the question, I think for me, getting to that point where I wanted to find a therapist or a sports psychologist, I had already wasted time just losing my thoughts. So I would think about, where is my anxiety coming from? Oh, okay, so these things, I cannot eat, I cannot sleep. And then it's like, what thoughts fill up my mind? Is it the relationship I'm going through?
Yeah.
Right? Is it schoolwork that I failed?
Yeah.
I failed the test, or, I'm struggling with that, or someone passed in my family and I'm scared to talk about it. I'm scared to even think about it. Where does your mind go? Where are your thoughts?
Right,
because
exactly.
If your thoughts and emotions are tied up somewhere else, and you're not able to work through that and understand and be okay with those emotions, then of course you're not going to be playing like yourself.
Exactly.
And then at that point, I'm just so over it, I'm just so hurt, and I'm just like, I want to change. I need to change. But that's not the only way, but
right.
In the spirit of going to a therapist, that's where I was.
Right. Right.
Overseas, same thing with overseas. Stressed out about injuries. Like I don't know how I was able to still play and perform, but a lot of my time was like, if you weren't on the court practicing or playing, a lot of my time honestly was like, we're supposed to be resting, having fun, venturing out in the city, but I was depressed and I was worried about when I was going to get hurt. Am I going to get hurt?
Oh, okay.
I have so much pain in my knee. I want to ask for Wednesday off, but I'm scared.
No, I feel you.
No lie. Like, I'm like, dang, do I have to go home? Should I go home at Christmas? Or can I do this? I mean, I had a wonderful time overseas, but I would say I missed a lot of the enjoyment because of those and that anxiety of
Yeah. And so like when you're overseas, it may not be as easy to get to a mental performance coach in that country, because a lot of countries, obviously, there's this huge language barrier. You don't know Polish, then you probably are not going to be able to communicate with that person. But that's okay though, because there are things that you can do on your own. And then obviously as you continue to evolve into your sport, you make those connections with other people who maybe have been in that situation, or you find a mental performance coach who you can talk to over the internet, just because, the internet's everywhere now. But just some things to think about when you find yourself struggling, and this could really help you to maybe pull yourself out of a slump, even if it's just a temporary, until you can get somewhere or to someone who could truly help you, is not having that woe is me mentality, feeling sorry for yourself. That helps. Don't give away your power. That is one that I wish I would have learned in college. In my freshman and sophomore year, like when I really go back and think about it, I gave away a lot of my power. And it made the game not fun anymore. And it made me not want to play. It made me not want to work as hard. It made me not want to work out extra. And I gave that power away. And because of doing that, I was not able to be as mentally tough as I should have been. But giving away your power takes away from your mental toughness.
Can I ask a question, Coach, before you
go ahead?
So if there's maybe a middle schooler or a high schooler, maybe college, that they want to go deeper into that thought of power.
Yes.
How would you explain power? Power of what?
Power. So don't give away your joy. Don't give away your peace. power is your love for the game. Power is what you bring to the game. What are your strengths? Power is your passion for the game. Power is how you think about the game as far as like maybe emotionally, like you love the game. Are you playing for a loved one? What are you playing for kind of thing? So those types of thoughts and are really what fall into power. And if you give that away, like if you're blaming people or if you're always making excuses, if you're always focusing on things outside of your locus of control, that's giving away your power. And that's actually hindering you from performing at the level you're supposed to perform at, that you need to perform at, that you can perform at. So that's really what giving away your power is. And if you give away your joy and your happiness, and then it becomes no longer fun. Now what? Now you're just doing it because you don't want to lose your scholarship. And that's literally the only reason why you're still playing at the college level. In high school, it could be because you just, maybe you just don't want to let anyone down. Well, the longer you try to live to please everyone else, the less you're pleasing yourself, which means you're not going to try your best. You're not going to try your hardest. And then you're going to keep hearing it. And then you're just going to keep caring less and less. That's giving away your power. If you don't want to play anymore, then don't play anymore. Because no matter what decision you make in life, in sports, whatever, someone is going to disagree with it. The only person who needs to agree with the decision you make is you. That's really it. And if you agree with it and you're happy with your decision, then keep going, and that's great. If you're not happy with your decision, then make a change. Do something about it. And so giving away your power, that's essentially what I'm saying. That hinders you from being mentally tough as an athlete.
Yes.
And then I already talked about, focusing on things that you cannot control. That gives away your mental toughness. It weakens your mental toughness muscle. Dwelling on the past, what that does is it causes you to hold on a second. What is that? The refrigerator people?
Hey, mute yourself, coach. While she's figuring it out, guys, I hope you are enjoying the podcast. Stay with us here. So if you want to get any help from Coach TK, here is her email. Okay? Reach out to her if you're a coach in the DFW area or anywhere in Texas or anywhere in the world. If you're a player or a parent, get in touch with her. See how she can help you in your team or your player there. And here's her website. Check this out. Mindset180academy.com. All right. Check that out. Let her know what kind of issues that you would like her to talk to her about. And then she'll go from there. Coach, you good?
Yeah, I'm good. My bad, man. A lot of stuff going on.
We were just talking about those techniques. Did you have any more that they could try out?
Yeah, for sure. So I think the last one that I focused on was not dwelling on your past. Is dwelling on past mistakes, because what happens is if you make a mistake or you have a turnover or whatever, and that's all you think about, you're going to rack up more and more turnovers, which is just going to eventually have the coach continue to be mad at you, frustrated, and you're going to sit out. So really, really honing in on not dwelling on the past, whether that's in the sports arena or your personal life, because if you keep dwelling on the past, that's eventually going to impact the present and the future. And all you have control over is what is happening right now. Exactly. So staying in the past is not helpful for anything or anyone. That's a few of the things that I've written down. I have a lot more, but if you want to learn more, if you want to talk about it more, then check out my website and reach out to me, and I definitely can work with you and help you through other ways in which mental toughness can be a strength for you. And it can really increase your play and increase how you think and approach the game in general. So those are just a few other things that I had written down on how to make mental toughness better.
Mm-hmm. Some other things that, we were talking about earlier and have talked about in our past episodes were, things like you said it too, positive affirmation, mm-hmm. and just thinking about the positive things. Something I used to do when I was in a slump or I just didn't feel like myself performance-wise, and I just needed a little boost, even right before games, I'd watch my highlight.
Yeah,
I'd watch a highlight film from Texas and college, or other places that I played overseas, and I just get my juices flowing, and I get myself to remember my value. That's me. That's what I do, and you kind of get hyped.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's not an egotistical thing. It's something that's going to get you ready to go perform and be the best version of you for your team.
Yeah.
So I like to watch my highlights.
No, I did that. I did that in college when I was like in my freshman and sophomore year. I wasn't playing as consistently as I wanted to, and I pulled out my highlight tape from high school, and I watched it a lot just to continue to reinforce, like, I know how to play this game, no matter how bad I'm playing right now, no matter how hard I'm being on myself. I know how to play this game, and I'm good at it. And I got to this level because of things I've done in my past. So why can't I do it now? Here's evidence. I have the evidence right here in the film that says I can do it. Yes. I'm going to go do it.
I love it. I love it. You just remember all those things that you've been through, the obstacles that you got over, overcame. And that's why you're in this, whatever moment it is, that's why you're here. Never forget what you've been through and the work that you put in.
Absolutely.
And then talking about work put in, you got to put in the work. And it has to be consistent. It has to be purposeful. You don't have to kill yourself with time in the gym, but you got to put some time as far as consistently and stacking it up.
Right.
Every day you should be doing something.
Right.
30 minutes.
Absolutely.
Film, an hour and 15, hour and a half if you have it. If you have 2 hours, go hard. Enjoy it.
I want to pause before you go to your next one. I really like that because, like, so right now, when COVID first started and everything was pretty much shut down, the first thing I thought about was the athletes, and I said, either they're going to come out of this a completely different player in one of two ways. They're going to be beastly and so ready for anything because they worked out the entire time, or they're going to actually regress in their game because they've done nothing, because they let the uncertainty of not knowing when sports was going to start up allow them to take a break. And that's going to be the great separator for the athletes that are now starting to perform, because there are states that are playing sports there. I mean, obviously we have the bubble and the wobble for the NBA. Yeah. I know there's some college football teams that were playing, and then I know there's a little peewee football that's starting to practice. Baseball has been playing. Yeah. So I mean, it's one of those things where your mental toughness during this time period is something that will show once you start playing again in whatever your respective sport is. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and athletes, if you're listening, if you don't get anything from this podcast, which I know you're going to get a lot, if you don't get anything, go by the principle of always being ready.
Yep.
To always be ready, you have to just stay consistent. You have to put the work in. You have to practice. You have to understand film and do those little things, asking your coaches for feedback.
Yep.
If you're always ready, guess what, coach? You ain't got to get ready.
I know, right? Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. That's what I call Jamie Graham. Shout out to Jamie Graham. She always said that when I met her in Virginia Beach at a football camp, and she was like, no, if I stay ready, I don't have to get ready. All right, there you go.
Exactly. And that's going to cut out a lot of your issues with performance.
Yep.
And it's actually going to toughen you up.
Yeah.
That's your mental toughness.
Yeah. So
we can see now, right, those players that stuck it out through this 3 to 6 months of COVID, right, since March. We're going to see those players with the mental toughness come through and be ready for their practices and their games. Football.
Yep. Absolutely.
Basketball. Like you gotta you gotta think like, hey, we're gonna be playing eventually, and that's the truth.
Yes.
Whether it's 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, it's
eventually will come.
If you're out of shape, any type of month,
right?
Don't get out of shape. Like it is not a game for any sport. Basketball, it is not a game to get back in shape. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I know like the baseball players
to go through that month of like, I quit. No.
Why did I even stop?
Why did I not run? Right? You can't do it.
I know, like for baseball players and softball players, if they take even 3 days off, their hitting is all out of whack. It's not quite that bad with basketball.
Right.
Maybe your timing will be off as far as with your working with your team, but shooting, I mean, I try not to take more than a day or two off when I was shooting, but you could probably go a week and still be okay. Baseball, softball, you go 3 days without hitting and it's game over. You're all
very
out.
precise. It's a very precise technical skill.
Yeah, it is. I mean, if you hit that ball, 3 degrees high, it's going to have a completely different trajectory. I mean, 3 degrees is not a lot, people. So, I mean, that makes a huge difference between a home run or the ball going in the dirt and you get thrown out.
It's not like we're shooting around the court with our basket movie.
Right.
We're good. We only got to focus on one thing, not a target, and then not,
a moving target going like 90 miles an hour in baseball and in the 60s in softball, and that's not easy.
Well, Coach, facing your fears, just looking at my list of other techniques. If there's anything bothering you, anxiety or something that's hurting you, and you think it's leaking over into your field or pool or the court, deal with it.
Yes.
Don't let it fester.
Yes.
And it might be a fear, but you've got to face that fear.
Yep.
Chip at it a little bit at a time, 1 day at a time, 1 hour a day, 30 minutes a day.
Yep.
Chip away at it. That's your mental toughness right there. And it's crazy because some things are put in our life as obstacles for us to grow.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you this one story and we're going to be good to go. I went to Romania my first year. Or not my first year, but like maybe my 4th year. But it's my first time playing in Romania.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to go there I said I would take a pay cut. Don't ever say that. To play on a top 3 team. Because I wanted to play on the better team. I had gotten like 6 or 7 ranked teams. So I want to play on the top team, right? I go there.
Uh-oh.
And it's a team that is new to the total league. So they don't really know how to run an organization. And it's just new. It's young players as well. And it was not exactly what I was expecting.
Right.
I had 2 other Americans with me that were very cool. And I remember that first maybe 2 or 3 weeks, we had a week of practice, getting to know everybody, and then we have, a little tournament, preseason tournament.
Right.
We played like maybe 2 to 4 games.
Yeah.
In maybe 2 games in a weekend. But I remember we got blown out of the water.
I'm like, hey, you man.
And I was like, what in the world? I didn't take a pay cut for this. I was literally ready to give up. I was literally ready to go, pack it up, and bounce.
Mm-hmm.
I ran into an Eric Thomas video that said, work on, I forget the actual topic, but it told me to stay and work on something. There's something that I'm here for. Right. Which is what I'm running from.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Leadership. A little bit of adversity.
Yeah.
Fourth year overseas. I needed something to once again, work, overcome.
Right. Challenge
to get me stronger. So I stayed, and it was a great season. We actually were maybe top 6. Mm-hmm. I had 2 of the most awesome Americans with me, friends to this day. Yeah. And it was just crazy because I was ready to give that up.
Right. After a preseason tournament.
Guy from Greece. The Greek was awesome. I was ready to give that up because I didn't see the vision that I should have saw. Right. So sometimes you got to go through what you got to go through.
Hey, that's getting outside of your comfort
zone. If you're running, you better make sure you're running towards something that is positive. But I wasn't running to another contract. So I was like, okay.
Right.
Let me figure this out.
Sometimes getting outside of your comfort zone is what will test your mental toughness. Like where are you? Sometimes you need that test. Where are you in your mental toughness? Am I where I think I should be, or am I just comfortable and I'm overthinking, or not overthinking? I'm giving myself too much credit for how mentally tough I am when really you haven't faced anything that required you to truly show mental toughness. So where are you in your comfort zone?
That's true.
What I heard. And you got outside of your comfort zone, and you grew as a player, you grew as a woman, you grew as a coach, you know, you grew in a lot of areas that you probably, I guess, based on your life trajectory, you needed to grow in to help you be where you are right now.
Exactly. And it might not even, like you said, it might not have been for, for my career, but 10 years later.
Yeah.
You know,
it could have been for somebody else. You don't know how, you don't know the impact that you'll have on someone else when you're in the midst of it, because not everything is instant. And so you staying could have directly impacted some player from Romania whose life is completely different because you stayed. And you may never know.
Yeah.
And you may know, but I mean, that's what it is. And that's why getting outside of your comfort zone and not necessarily running when every time something gets hard, that shows mental toughness, because there's a lesson in everything.
It is. It truly is. You can learn from anything, especially your failures. Choose to
sure.
learn from it. Coach, you got anything to end the episode with? Any tips, any last thoughts you weren't able to get out?
No, just if you really are struggling with mental toughness, if you really are struggling with any of the topics that we've discussed, anything related to mental performance, reach out to me, reach out to Coach Ernie. We are here to help. This is what we do. This is what we enjoy doing. We are here for you. The information has been flashing on the show the whole time. Don't allow your mental game to go untouched. Don't allow rust to settle on your mental game, because you need the mental game way more than you need the physical. And it may not make sense now, but I promise it'll make sense later.
Awesome. Coach has a 10-week mental toughness or mental performance course, right?
Yeah, it's a 10-week mental toughness course that I do offer. And we go in depth on some of the topics that we talked about today. And I give you some strategies on how to bring yourself out of that in the moment. You'll walk away each session with something tangible around mental toughness, which will ultimately enhance your mental performance so you can play the way you know how to play.
Excellent. Coaches, reach out to Coach TK. Parents, if you're watching, grandparents, if you're watching, if you have athletes in your family, young athletes that are aspiring to be better athletes, and maybe even go get a scholarship, or they're getting ready to take it from college to professional sports. Reach out to Coach TK. See how she can help you. I know she's got more than one product, so it's fire. What she does is fire, and you need this. You need this to continue a long, healthy, and mentally healthy career.
Yes, thank you.
More buckets. More touchdowns.
More home runs.
More goals. Let me see what sports. More spikes.
I know, right? More spikes.
All right, guys. We are out. Stay tuned. We'll be having some more podcasts soon. I'm going to make TK keep working with me. We'll figure something else out, and we're going to give you the value, all right? Have a blessed day. Bye, guys.